Your Kings TV network, home of the Texas Paper Kings and the Texas Flames in 2026. This 2020 Sports Update brought to you by Electrolit. Electrolit Pure Refreshment. I'm your Shula sportsman, Michael Lewis. Tonight in the sports world, in the WNBA, Team Collier defeated Team Clark 151 to 136 in the WNBA All-Star game in Indianapolis. But before the game, all of the participating athletes wore shirts calling the WNBA to pay them what they owe. The Nafisa Collier, who eventually spoke out about it, actually was the game's MVP with 36 points. Also, Scotty Scheffler has a four-stroke lead in the Open in Northern Ireland, and the San Francisco 49ers could be possibly close to a deal that will extend Dewan Jennings for 5 years. That's your 2020 Sports Update. I'm Michael Lewis. This is the Kings Radio Network. You're listening to the Sports Zone Monthly on the Kings Radio Network with the sports bet, Michael Lewis. Get in and out and talk at 1-800-337-7171 or 1-415-337-2222. From a point somewhere around America, here is the sports bet, Michael Lewis. Thank you very much for joining me right here on the Sports Zone, right here on the Kings Radio Network. It's been a long time, so kind of excuse the core, but we're going to fix all this in the next month edition as well. We'll talk about what's going to come up on this edition as well. And we're going to talk about what we have coming up on the August edition of Sports Monthly. This is the monthly magazine. And we're going to have a few guests as well coming up on the next edition of the Sports Zone Monthly. Again, thank you very much for joining me on this Saturday night. Usually we run this show on Sunday, but it's been so much sports packed in, we decided to run it on the Saturday night. It's going to be a I say a very short show. There we go. I got tongue tied there. But a lot of things have gone on in the NFL, especially the WNBA with the expansion. And also, we'll talk a little bit about the NIL and a lot of things going on with the Trump administration stopping that as well. So, or setting limits on how much an actual athlete can get paid. We're going to go through all that as well. And working a lot of to kinks. So it's been a while. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been the last time you probably heard me. I was with Courtney Mendenhall. That was probably sometime in 2024, somewhere around there. You can always watch this, watch this and listen to us and on Spotify coming soon, and also KRB's 97.1 and on RTV television and on YouTube. Also, watch us on Sports Zone. You can get to us on Sports Zone on X. And also, there'll be a rewind show of this Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central on RTV television via YouTube. So definitely watch for that. There's a lot of new stuff here. So bear with us as well. The Zone In is brought to you by Xfinity Mobile. Xfinity Mobile, you can get the best deal for your dollar, and also get some best deals on the iPhone 16. Go to www.xfinitymobile.com. All right. As you probably know, tonight was the WNBA's showcase of not only a style, but also it showcased tonight uh, the the great stars of the league. And now the WNBA wants their bag, and I definitely understand that. And tonight the league and all the team and the players who played tonight's game, from Aaliyah Boston to Caitlin Clark, to Sabrina Nescu, to everybody that participated in that game tonight. They actually wanted the league to pay them what they owe, and that there has been some misconceptions or miscommunications among the league itself, and a lot of the players are not really happy about where the WNBA is going right now. The league is not doing well, and they wore these shirts tonight before the game, and for some reason or another, Kathy Engelbert and their people and the union, the women's WNBPA union, they're all not coming in any agreement at all whatsoever. Uh, I can understand where they're coming from, and when you look at players that have not even seen probably a dime of their pay, it's understandable. And it's an understanding thing that these guys are coming in, and they're coming in happy to be in the league. But as you probably know, there still is need for expansion. Breanna Stewart talked about this. There's still need for expansion, or there's need for a G League or something of that nature. And as many players that were drafted in 2022, the Haley Joneses and a couple other players, the Destiny Hendersons, who was a hero in South Carolina's one of their one of their championships that Don Staley coached. It was basically one of those things that you would never think that these players would flip from team to team to team after getting drafted. Well, they did. For whatever reason, these teams were 2 or 3 years later, they would be flipped from team to team. And it's because then now the expansion started with the Golden State Valkyries this year. We'll talk about that team later. And then also next year will be Portland and Toronto in 2026. And then you have Cleveland and Detroit in 2027 and 28, and more to come. Well, where the WNBA is falling short for me is the fact is that these players that are playing now, we know about the Angel Reese and the Caitlin Clark fiasco that started from not only from college but also now. Reese has been playing very well, and Clark has been injury prone this year, but still one of the one of the uh, big parts of this league. I still think that for some reason or other, this league still has a chance to make itself um, well known. Now, the champions of the league, the New York Liberty, yeah, they they lost most, not say most of our players, but they one of the players. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that in one of the segments later on. Kayla Thornton, and also Beniza Laney Hamilton, who they lost this year to injury that she suffered uh, as well. And we'll talk about that. But there are a lot of things that are defining and dividing this league for whatever reason. It's just not, either it's just too much expansion, or there's not enough room for players to play, or there's something is not right. And so it's something we just have to look at. But moving on, it seems like this would be a great league with the growth and everything else, and but it's and it goes to a point now. We're going to talk about the two teams for next year. Portland named its team Friday, called the Fire. and the Portland Fire and the Toronto Temple, who named their team last year, will both play in 2026. Will they be able to play in 2026? And that's the real big thing, because a lot of, with this CBA agreement, when the WNBA Players Union and with the commissioner and the league, the league representatives, it's just not really coming to fruition. I think Satu Sabali said it just perfectly. She said, there is no way in the world that you're going to give us an agreement that feels like that we are making peanuts. And for some reason or other, this it seems like they are. There's not really a thing that you can tell me right now that these players are making an absorbent amount of money, unless you were NIL and you came into the league like the Caitlin Clarks, like the Angel Reeses, and like a couple other players that came in and made a ton of money, and that absorbs into the NIL still being paying you. And now you have Reese with a shoe, you have Clark with a ball, you have Asia Wilson with a shoe. Uh, it's absorbent. They're making their money outside of the WNBA with the NIL, with the shoe deals, with everything else. But for me, where is the money going to come from as far as paying the rookies what they need to pay and also paying the veterans? There should be a veteran limit. The veterans that have been committed to this league for over 5 years should get a veteran a, a veteran upgrade. There are players in here that should get three that have been making marks and legends in the league, like Tina Charles and others who have played in this league close to 10 years or better. That should get somewhere within the at least close to the 300,000 range a year. But this is something that we just have to really kind of gauge upon for whatever reason. And this is something that we just have to really look at, and I just don't really think that, for me, I just don't think that this is being played right by the league representation. I think the ladies are driving a great bargain, but they're not, for some reason or other, they're not meeting the players halfway, and that's crazy. And a great league like this should not have problems like this as well. All right, here we go. You know, as being a fan of this ball club for so many years, through the Joe Montana years, through the years, it's being a fan of this ball club. You figure for yourself that, are the divas gone? It's the diva image of wide receivers. George Kittle signed his deal earlier, and now Christian McCaffrey is going to sign an extended 2-year deal to stay with them. Brock Purdy had signed a deal with them. Last year, he was a problem off the field, Brandon Ayuk, until they bent in and gave him what he should have taken, the first agreement of 3 years, $110 million. Well, the new diva by the Bay is a critical one, Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings told an actual Sporting News reporter, and also told Tim Tolbert from the game 95-7 in San Francisco, is that basically he would like to stay here, and he's in camp. He's not walking out of it, and he's participating full blown. But he says that he would like to get wide receiver one money, which I think he deserves. It's no problem. I think he deserves that. He was the leader on their team in receiving yards in a year that was injury riddled and drama riddled with the Williams situation, with the Ayuk situation, and he was there the full season. And He was a great mentor for Ricky Pearsall, as you know, the rookie from Florida who was shot last year. The basic thing I think is that what is he asking for? For me, I think he's not really a diva. This is a guy, this is what everybody's calling a diva. This is a person that you really need to pay. You really need to pay Juwan Jennings. I don't even know what else to say. You have to pay Juwan Jennings. If you're not paying Juwan Jennings, and he gets traded, I'm not for sure where this team is going to go. There's already Demarcus Robinson, who they picked up from the Rams, who's now on a 3-game suspension because of a DUI that he had in Southern California, and he'll be suspended by the league for probably 4 games. Then you have Ricky Pearsall, who may be 100%, who may not be 100% better than he was last year. We don't know. He came on as of late because of the Ayuk injury, and Brandon Ayuk, who may not be 100% because of the ACL injury that he got last year. Is that going to leave George Kittle? Is that going to leave room for one of these other young receivers to step up? We don't know. But they do need Juwan Jennings because he's a tall receiver. He's a stretch receiver, and he can actually catch in traffic. Not only that, he was the only NFL player to throw a touchdown in a Super Bowl and catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl when the 49ers lost in overtime to Kansas City in Las Vegas just 2 years ago. What do we think here? Well, if you're a 49er fan like I am, again, here's drama by the bay again, and the rest. Um, I think this Jennings situation will be a lot more easier to handle than it will the Ayuk situation or the Debo Samuel situation. I think it was more of the pushback against John Lynch and those guys out in the Bay Area than anything. But we can only see. We can only see. Anything. When we come back, when we come back on this abbreviated edition of Sports on Sports Monthly, we'll talk more about the new Lady Warriors by the Bay, huh? And we'll talk about the NIL, why nations controlling it, huh? Huh. All that and more as you're watching and listening to the Sports Zone Monthly, Kings Radio and TV. You're watching, listening to the Sports Zone Monthly on the Kings TV network. This is the Kings TV network.
Too much heat. I only paid for a Hyundai Tucson.
This is the Kings TV network. You're back to the Sports Zone Monthly on the Kings TV network. Welcome back at 1-800-337-7171, 1415 777 TLK. This is Sports Zone Monthly. Back after almost a year and a half hiatus. I'm just truly sports with Michael Bruce. Thank you very much for joining on a Saturday night where we just saw the WNBA All-Star game. It was pretty much a very good game. Real good game. Um, and the next team we're going to talk about in this game had one of their really, I would say, probably one of the better players that they picked up. Not say better players, but somebody that I knew there was going to be a leader on that team. And don't forget, you can listen to this, watch the Sports Zone Monthly Rewind Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on RTV television via YouTube and also on Facebook as well. All right, we're getting the Kinks out, so it's kind of like we'll get a little new look on this studio as well, and what we're talking about as well when we go forward with our monthly show in August next month as well. We'll talk about who we'll have on the show as well next month toward the end of the show. All right, let's go to this next one. You know, the last time we were on the Sports Zone, this was the last time we were on. You know, we had everything was different, everything was everything, and we kind of, you know, we had a different president at the time. Everything was fine. Now, circumvents into 2025, everything is totally different. Um, and I mean, totally different. The 45th president became the 47th president of the United States this past November. And Donald Trump is now putting his hands into something new. And there are rumor reports that Donald Trump is the Trump administration is looking into controlling the NIL branding, and how much athletes can get paid, not only from the collegiate ranks, but states that are already putting together uh, proposed amendments to have high school players get paid as well in the NIL. This is just for high school seniors. And some of the Republican states, not all of the states, but some Republican states have already, and California have already decided to do this as well. The problem with this as well, I'm going to look at this, and I've looked at this already, and juniors and seniors in high school in some states are going to get paid, regardless of what happens. But the main thing is that uh, they're with a presidential administration controlling the NIL. You're telling players what they can get paid and what sponsors can pay the NIL. If you have a president that's controlling it, you're telling the people that these deals that are being signed, you're telling the sports agents that may be NIL certified that are going to represent these players, these athletes out of high school and in college. You're going to tell these athletes you basically want to put a cap on what your agents are getting paid and what the athletes are getting paid. So the sponsor, you're going to tell a sponsor or a business that's really actually, uh, it's really actually promoting the athlete. The athlete is signed a deal with. So if an athlete such as, I would say, Flau'jae Johnson had a deal with a insurance company, and I'm not going to name names, but it's for a 10-year deal, and this is after she leaves LSU. She can do whatever she wants with it, but she's doing a promotional for an insurance company, a life insurance company, and she gets paid per year. I mean, out of this whole deal, she gets paid somewhere around 250 to 300. So if you do the math on 10 years, that's about $3.5 million. Okay, this is just an example. So if that person were getting paid, so now if the administration or the Trump administration controls how much the NIL or these prestigious companies are paying these athletes, then there's a problem. Because then you have a problem with these athletes getting paid. Then you have these problems. Then you have a problem with these athletes getting paid, and then you have a problem with the agents that are representing these athletes are getting paid. How does this work, or how does that work, or it really just comes to a point that now an athlete that's getting controlled and a business that's getting controlled by a government administration can now lose somewhere between a profit of about maybe 20-25%, and an athlete may lose about maybe 15 10-15% of that profit. That is what may actually come out of this. So if this administration controls the NIL, good luck. I would think basically, what this administration is trying to do is more or less of trying to control now their 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 idea is on now controlling sports and collegiate sports and high school sports, and that's not fair to the businesses as well. And we can only see where 2026 will lead us. Our next topic. We always talk about the Golden State Warriors. We always talk about Steph Curry and Draymond Green, and then Klay Thompson, who's now in Dallas, and all of these, and all the famous Warriors teams that we have. Now, last year, you probably know, the Golden State Valkyries became the newest team of the WNBA and was granted expansion rights to take players who were unprotected in December, this past December. This team has now exploded, and I mean exploded. Natalie Nakase was working with Becky Hammon in Las Vegas, and as you probably know, she was a very great collegiate athlete that played basketball at UCLA and played overseas as well. And first Asian American head coach to coach in the WNBA. Well, she took on some some players that were not really they were either role players on the bigger teams or players who just basically made journeyman stops. One of those players that they picked is now the new female Steph Curry at the Bay, Kayla Thornton. Thornton, as you probably know, she's from El Paso, and she grew up with Aaron Jones in the neighborhood next to Fort Bliss, which is the military base there in El Paso. But she played also with the New York Liberty, and she played with a couple of the teams in WNBA before winning a championship with the Liberty last year. Thornton, very much a vocal leader on that ball club, was the first pick ever by the new Valkyries. Tonight, she played in her first All-Star game and scored 15 points and had 11 rebounds in her first ever All-Star game, playing for team Clark tonight. But Thornton has been the focal force down low with Tammy Fabulous and also Femi Fabulous, and she's also been with now newly picked up Letitia Amaher as well. But not only has Thornton been on point as being one of the leaders, but the vocal leader in this ball club has been Veronica Burton. Burton, as you probably know, is from Northwestern, and she's been shuffled around to two different teams. So she played. She was drafted by the Dallas Wings, and then was traded. Then she was picked up by the Connecticut Sun, and then was let go. Veronica Burton right now is second or fourth, I'd say fourth now in the WNBA in three-pointers made. Burton is leading the charge for the Valkyries. Even though the Valkyries have hit a slide, the games that they have lost, they haven't really lost bad. Now here's an actual team that has defeated champions, a former, this year. They defeated Las Vegas. They've defeated Seattle once. And they basically came close to sweeping Las Vegas, and they did a they had a very good game that day, just a few shots here or there, and this ball club could be probably one of the most well talked about teams of this year. I would say Natalie Lacase should be the coach of the year in the WNBA this year. And you probably talk about the others, Hammond, or the coach in New York with the Liberty, uh, Reeve in Minnesota. She's done a great job with the Lynx. Uh, you really kind of have to mix in, though, the fact is that here's a team that nobody would think they'd said, okay, these guys are going to win 9 games, miss the playoffs, but they'll have enough salary cap space to work with for next year. You have to look at it from a standpoint. This team next year, even with Portland coming into the league, this team next year is pretty much well stacked. There are going to be some people that are going to lose, but they will core off, most likely will core off Thornton, Kayla Thornton, Timmy Fabregas. They'll probably core off Letitia Amaher. They'll probably core off Veronica Burton and Tiffany Hayes, and probably Kate Martin. The others are going to be up in the air, but those players are going to be most likely cored. Now, maybe Caitlin Chen, but you look at this, they're going to protect those people next year, and they can actually, Just a Joke, I believe it's Just a Joke, has not played with the team because of her contract restrictions coming from overseas in Hungary. I think this team is great. If they win 2 or 3 big games going down the stretch, this team's going to be electric. I think that right now they're sitting at the 7 or 8 spot, and they're right at the corner of the 8 spot. The only team that's chasing them, and teams that are chasing them, are the champions, the Las Vegas Aces, who have had their problems this year. I think that this Valkyries team may end up picking a couple of Aces players next year. It could be, because of the fact is that this team is built upon defense, and I think that the driving force behind the team is Kayla Thornton, and for whatever it is, for whatever it means, Kayla Thornton is probably the leader of that ball club, and everything floats around her. The 3 points that she makes, and everything that Veronica Burton does to calm the team down and get the team back on track and focus. It's just so great to see a young team like this, a team that nobody's known about, to be able to be possibly a team that might finish over 500 and could make the playoffs as well. They were at 5 or 6, slipping a couple notches down, but still they have remained competitive. All right. Let's go with this. We know for a fact is that for whatever reason or another, the ghosting of sports agents exists. for me being in sports management and still in the field of it, there's a lot of times that you have sports agents and those who pretend to be. Rich Paul, who, as you probably know, uh, represents LeBron James and also Anthony Davis, said on the podcast, he says that the sports agents that are people that come into becoming sports agents, or they are sports agents for whatever reason or another, they they're not understanding the world of sports management. You can build a company, you can build some brass and build some people around you, um, build build relationships and everything about that. But if you're not having who do you, who have you signed, and these are what athletes look for, whether it be NIL deal, whether it be an overseas deal, or whether it be an NBA or a WNBA deal. Who have you signed? Whether it be a soccer deal, whether it be a football deal, whether it be a softball deal, because now softball is coming into fruition, whether it be a pickleball deal. Who have you signed? Anybody major, or are you a an agent, a sports agent that is starting? And that's really the big thing, is that you have to really kind of look at when you get into sports management, there is so much you have to learn. You have to learn and do your research on league agreements from the WNBA, the NBA, the NFL, NHL, to MLS, or even the women's NWSL. You have to learn those different agreements. And if you don't know those agreements, you're going to be, in a lost case scenario. The basic thing you have to take a look at is that the WNBA is going through the contract, like we talked about earlier. The WNBA is going through contract negotiations that are just in the nick of just fixing the the problem with the contracts. That's basically bottom line. Fixing the contract problem. The contract is that these women are not making enough money to stay in the U.S. Yes, most of them are coming out of the colleges just fresh with NIL deals, but sometimes those don't cover what they're looking for in the league part. There are players that say they may not even have made or seen more than $1 more per year. Um, when you're an agent, you come in, you have to take a look at. Here are the facts that I take a look at always when you're coming in to represent an athlete. Your first thing is always film. You got to make sure that the athlete has the adequate amount of film, the highlight film, the best offense, defense, whatever highlight plays that they had during the year, during a college career. It can't be 4 or 5 years ago. It has to be something current. You have to let them know it has to be a 6 month to 1 year, at the minimum 6 to 3 months. It has to be current. Two, you have to make sure that their resume is concise, correct, and it also makes the makes the grade with a lot of different organizations or teams or clubs that would like to have interest in this player. But first and foremost, you have to find out where's the player's mindset. Maybe just to go over and get into the league and get a stop here or there, maybe at a Euro Basket Cup uh, stop with a team in another country, to get something under my belt, or to get something long term. Now, you have to be familiar with the countries. Different countries are going to have different leagues, are going to have different rules. They're going to have different standards. They're going to have different things. They're going to have teams that are that may be in the league for in that country for 1 year, and then they're gonna have teams that are gonna be in that league that may not have paid players for 2, 3, 4. I've even seen players that are retired from the WNBA that have not even gotten a penny from a team, a club in Greece or a club in Poland. It's just one of those things. Um, you also have to realize, also as well, um, when you're coming into the agent world, you have to come into the agent world knowing the length of contract, whether it is an if you're playing if a player is playing overseas basketball in the FIBA, okay, they pick up a player in maybe I'd say January or December, and they sign him to a 3 month deal. You have to remember, okay, so is this a trial run? Because with the 10-day contract, or now the WNBA's into it now, where they're 10-day contracts because players are going overseas to play. Foreign players are going overseas, like the Cardozos and others, were playing in their home country, were playing in the Eurobasket Cup. And so they had to sign players for 10 days or for the length of the time that this player is going to be gone, maybe 2 weeks, so 10 to 14-day contract. If everything worked out, they would have to then relinquish a contract for another player they picked up and then bring them on. Now that the WB All Star game has ended, any player they pick up now is signed through the end of the season, whether in the playoffs or not. They're signed and paid to the end of the season. The main thing you have to really look at when there's a 90-day contract, it's a 3 month contract, usually overseas in the basketball world of FIBA overseas. You are looking at the possibility that they're looking for somebody that can actually there may be a playoff run, so they have to pick up somebody that's really good in America, give them a certain amount of money, and still pay them for playoffs and uh, for playoffs, and also if they get MVP in the playoffs. Most agents don't look for that when they just say, "Hey, I've signed this person to a 3 month deal." Okay, but what are they getting out of it? And they may get 7,000 for those 3 months, but are they getting something more efficient? Are they getting something more better? Or there that has to be the reasoning. Or if they get the 3 months and they do well, which most American players are supposed to, then are you going to see about are they good enough now to where they can sign for 6 more months or a full year? Make sure that agents that are in this game or supposedly in this game have to make sure that they're looking at the I's and crossing the T's with the actual club, the general manager, and the coach of that overseas team. Because every single contract in every single country is not going to be the same. Every club contract in every country is not going to be the same. But the main thing is if you're getting into sports agent work is we are going to have to if you're going into sports management, you're majoring in sports management, the thing that you're going to have to do is communicate with your client. Get them up to date on what's going on. This is what I'm looking at. This is what I got a an offer for. This is what just don't throw them out there because their worth may be more than just your typical okay, they're paying you $2,000 a month. They're giving you this. But you got to look at the parameters. Look where the actual player's been. If they've been in a Bosman A, Bosman B overseas league, they're not going to want to go play in Mexico for 2,500. They may have played in the Bosman A or Bosman B league overseas, and they may have gotten somewhere between 10,000 euros, which is about 5 grand in the U.S., to probably about somewhere around 13 13,000 euros, which is $8,000 in US. So you can probably have to look at it from a standpoint, know the know what you're talking about as far as the different contracts, the different levels of play, especially overseas in Europe, and the leagues that are the CBL or the WNBL over if you're in women, if you're in the men's league over there, you have to understand the differences in different contracts for different leagues and for different countries as well. All right, so let's go down to what we have for our August show, and our August show is coming up next month. Uh, we are going to have for our August show next month, and we're going to have our August show. We're going to try to get a hold of. We're going to try to get a hold of Rihanna Henderson, who's a great colleague of mine. We're going to try to get a hold of her, and she was formerly on our show called the Street Mental, and she's now working with a project out, a sports performance project out, and with Exiles, and also with a college out near our home city of Los Angeles as well. We're going to try to have her on as well, and um, for August we are going to have for our August show we're going to have Sharon Martin Blacknall, good colleague of mine. We're going to talk about her book called From Hooper to Pro. Um, that is going to be on the August version of uh, From Hooper to Pro. You can get it on Amazon, and we're going to have Sharon on that show to talk about the ins and outs, as we were talking about, uh, for that are the athletes are not in, that are not really understanding how it is to just go out to play in leagues such as the ABA or TBA or SBL or whatever, into becoming a professional. What does it take to be a professional? And I've read the book, got a copy of it, and I'm very, very impressed with it as well. All right. So that is going to be on the and look for the date that we're going to have the show on a Sunday now, on the Sports Zone monthly. All right, so it comes now down to the 2 minute timer, the 2 minute drill coming up in now, and the 2 minute drill brought to you by Electrolyte, great hydration, pure hydration, Electrolyte. You know, this is an attack on, not saying an attack, for some reason or another, it becomes more of a problem with the San Francisco 49ers. Every single year, there's a contract hold out, somebody wanting more money, they got to cry about it. What is going on, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan? We know for some reason or another you've lost Deebo Samuel, injury prone. You have almost lost Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams, but they both played last year. Sometimes hurt, sometimes there. Now you have this situation with Jawan Jennings. What is going on, San Francisco? Maybe are you looking at this 11 team? I don't want that to happen. For some reason, I believe there was two Super Bowls under this experiment of 7 years. But for some reason or other, he was asking for sort of movie. whatever reason you lost Jordan Mason, you lost Ray Green, or you lost Stephon Fonga to Denver and Jacksonville. You just lost George Odom. For some reason or other, I don't even know why they're picking your first in the West. Me, I'm going to take a 6 in a row. The Rams will win, Cardinals maybe. For some reason or other, we've got to get this thing together in the Bay Area. If not, like the Giants, I'll just give up on you and watch and wait for the Warriors. Maybe I'll have to wait for the Dolphins. Bay Area, wake up. 49ers, you can't have football team. Yes, my 2 minutes ago. That's going to do it for me on this edition of the on the Sports Zone Monday. Until then, we kind of want to know. God bless. We'll talk to you soon. You've been listening, watching the Sports Zone on the Kings Radio Network. This is the Kings TV Radio Network.